Everything seems to be going well for Saitō and his crew. They manage to figure out the reason for his appearance in this world, and his relationship with Raelza deepens as the pair grow closer together. But when Saitō, Raelza, and Lafa head into the labyrinth without Morlock, who is bedridden after being bitten by a venomous serpent, their happy days come crashing in on them when upon their return, they find that Morlock has passed away. To the party's dismay, the inn's owner explains that the day everyone left for the dungeon, he brought a meal to Morlock's room, but the old wizard had already stopped breathing. The great expense of having revival magic cast on the corpse, or having it stored in a morgue, was far too cost-prohibitive for the innkeeper. So instead, he had Morlock's body stowed inside a shed to delay its decay. Somehow, a wild dog managed to make its way into the shed and eat a part of its body. As revival magic cannot work on a severely damaged corpse, the innkeeper felt at that point that he had no choice but to bury Morlock. The party travel to a makeshift graveyard outside town and find Morlock's grave. While they all stand there in disbelief, Raelza grows despondent. Saitō urges her and Lafa to help him dig up the body, but Raelza informs him they don't have the money to attempt to revive Morlock. Saitō gently tells her that he knows how much Morlock meant to her, and that as long as there's a sliver of possibility that he could be brought back, they should do everything in their power to make it happen. Lafa smiles and urges the party to action, telling Saitō and Raelza to run back to town for tools to help dig up Morlock, while she visits the magic shop for items to help preserve his body from further decay. Lafa manages to get back to the grave first, but to her surprise, the grave has already been dug out with no sign of either Raelza, Saitō, or the body. Meanwhile, Saitō and Raelza make their way back from town when they're suddenly ambushed by an undead in a black robe. The undead attacks them with Morlock's signature fire spell. The panicked pair assume they are being attacked by Morlock, who has finally lost his memory in death, and begin to fight back. Just as the undead manages to put them on the back foot, its skull is destroyed by a spell launched from the right. As they look on in surprise at their mysterious rescuer, they hear his voice and instantly recognize it as Morlock. The party run to him in joy, only to find that he too has in fact turned into an undead skeleton. Whilst in the midst of trying to process all this, flesh and skin rapidly begin to cover Morlock's body, and the old wizard is magically revived. They all head back to town in order to understand Morlock's current situation. Lafa explains his revival is probably linked to a single-use limited resurrection contract, which is able to bring someone back from the dead for a single day after they pass away. Though Raelza is pissed that Morlock has no memory of having this miracle magic, he has more important things to worry about first. Above all else, the fact that his body keeps randomly shifting between human and skeleton, and importantly of all, the absence of a rather vital body part, his twig and berries. Saitō suddenly recalls the innkeeper mentioning a wild dog which ate part of Morlock's body, and Lafa concludes the reason for his malfunctioning resurrection may just be the fact that his body is not, whole, as it is. While Raelza is not particularly distressed by this development, and tells the old man to live with his loss, Morlock's pitiful cries bring in the eavesdropping Gabungle, who pledges to make his master whole again. Using the Magipedia, a book which Morlock himself wrote, Gabungle informs the group that as long as they locate the culprit behind the incident, they can extract Morlock's magic power from its flesh and revive him completely, crotch and all. The motivated Morlock rushes out of the room, intent on retrieving his family jewels. While unable to find any leads on their own, they run into Flanriel and Nania, who reveal a dog matching the innkeeper's description has been attacking people west of the town. As it turns out, this feral hound was no ordinary beast. It once lived in the demon realm, working as the hunting dog for demon aristocrats. It helped them take down all manner of magical beasts. But one day, it had a chance encounter with a beautiful female wolf from the human realm, who lost her way and wandered into his domain. The two fell in love and became partners until one day the dog's master ordered it to hunt down a beautiful wolf he had discovered, so that she could be stuffed and put on display. Realizing his own love was in danger, he rushed to her and hatched a plan for them to escape to the human realm. Amidst the attempt, they were ambushed by one of his master's lackeys. Though the two worked together and managed to defeat it, the wolf was fatally wounded in the process. Just as the hound was about to give in to despair and end his own life, he heard a small whimper, the whimper of their child who had just been birthed. To protect it, he took it to the human realm, where they lived for half a year. During this time, he taught the pup how to hunt, so that it could be self-sufficient in case something ever happened to him. The dog didn't realize, however, that his master had cast binding magic, slowly weakening it. Time passes, and as he begins to waste away, he searches for some method to prolong his life, a way to ensure he could protect his child for as long as possible. One day, he wanders into town and discovers the shed of Morlock's dead body. Sensing his magic, the hound ate part of his body before being discovered by the innkeeper and subsequently fleeing. To his dismay, he could not deal with all of Morlock's power, and the magic began to rampage within his body, turning him feral and causing him to attack anyone he saw. Meanwhile, Saitou's party, with the addition of Gabungle, head outside town to where the dog was last seen. While they arrive at the current spot, Morlock and Saitou stop midway as Morlock is unable to keep up with everyone's pace. Finding himself alone with the handyman, the old warlock decides this may be a good opportunity to ask Saitou how he feels about Raelza. While the question rather flusters Saitou, the old man tells him the story of how he had met Raelza. While very young, her father had died while killing a wolf. Her mother, looking to find some food for them both, went into the mountains and never came back, presumably killed by the wolf's mate. Somehow, the young Raelza managed to fend for herself in the wild and one day ran into a starving wolf pup. Sensing the two were alike in a lot of ways, she became friends with the pup, and the two lived together for a few years. Sometime later, when she became 10 years old, she met Morlock in a forest, who adopted her as his daughter and helped her become an adventurer. Sensing his body's regeneration was weakening, and fearing the worst, Morlock asks Saitou if he can count on him to take care of his daughter after he has passed. The embarrassed Saitou musters up the courage to tell Morlock that while he thinks he isn't good enough, he would like Morlock's blessing to be with Raelza. Tearing up, Morlock tells him to say that to Raelza as well, to which Saitou, calling Morlock father for the first time, agrees, but only after they find the dog and heal Morlock. But this moment is suddenly interrupted when the rampaging hound appears out of nowhere and rips off Morlock's arm. Raelza and Lafa, worried about the two, leave the search for the dog to Gabungle and make their way back to them, only to discover a disabled Morlock and a bleeding Saitou being attacked by the hound. While Lafa casts a healing spell on Saitou, the enraged Raelza clashes with the hound. While the dog nearly destroys her right arm with its fire breath, she is able to land a powerful blow and nearly kills the beast. Just as she's about to finish the job, the pup steps between them, blocking her from hurting its father. Hearing his pup's voice, the dog regains some of its senses and asks Raelza to kill him while he's still in control, but to spare his child. Noting that Morlock doesn't have much time, she agrees and lifts her sword when suddenly the hound is attacked and dragged off by an even greater demon, sent by the hound's master to retrieve him. Lafa and Raelza team up, and with Lafa providing healing and shielding, Raelza manages to attack and defeat the greater demon. During the celebration of their victory, the hound's master uses the greater demon's body as a sacrifice to ascend into the human realm. Their master, a demon lord-class monster unable to come to the human realm under normal circumstances, abruptly unleashes a spectacularly powerful attack. At the cost of all her magic, Lafa only barely manages to defend against the attack. Raelza instructs Saitou to take Lafa and escape while she holds the demon off, but it's a losing battle as she's severely outmatched against the demon lord. Just when the situation appears dire, Saitou returns, throwing holy water on the monster, and using wire cutters to rescue Raelza. She takes this opportunity to attack the demon and seemingly succeeds in cutting it in half, only for it to regenerate its body and cast a high-level freezing spell, encasing Saitou in ice. While she desperately tries to hold the demon off, Morlock, whose body Saitou had placed next to the hound before returning to fight, begins to feel magic within the dog's body. He asks the hound to return his magic, and it willingly agrees to give him everything if he promises to save his pup in exchange. Morlock happily comes to an agreement and returns to the fight in perfect condition. He chops the demon's head off and frees Saitou from his icy prison. The demon goes berserk and attacks Morlock, who easily holds it off with a magical flame sword. The demon and Morlock both release extremely powerful ice and fire magic respectively at each other, but Morlock's spell easily gains the upper hand, and appears to incinerate the monster. They all triumphantly gather around when the wind knocks off the old man's hat to reveal he has grown dog ears. When the hound had returned Morlock's power, it also gave Morlock some of his own. With the mix of now both powers, the wizard is granted both dog ears and a wagging tail. As Morlock tries to return the dog's magic back to its own body, he's suddenly pierced through the chest by an ice projectile from the recovered demon lord. While the rest of the party look on and worry, Morlock reveals that the magic was stopped by his body and failed to pierce his skin. The combination of the dog's magic with his own turned out to be a potent mix, strengthening his body greatly and momentarily returning him to his youthful state. He summons a giant golem and uses it to attack the demon, dealing great damage effortlessly. He succeeds in sealing the demon lord away with the golem's body, hitting it with a powerful magic that summons a meteor from the sky. However, even this display of magic is unable to finish off this monster, who continues to try to fight back. While the rest are a touch slow to react, Saitou grabs Raelza's giant sword, slashing the demon's arm off. Morlock jumps on the offensive to incinerate the demon once more. Raelza rushes over to hug Saitou, but they're both attacked by one tiny remnant of the remaining monster. As it closes in, the young pup jumps and grabs the demon in midair, preventing it from moving. The demon lord's magic begins to dry up thanks to the pup, and which it finally perishes. Gabungle, having been waylaid by an unseen force, finally arrives with Flanrill and Nania, who had run into him and helped him fight the undead army. Both Nania and Lafa cast purification spells to wipe out any remnants of the demon and to prevent any more undead from rising in the area. Morlock, true to word, gives the hound its magic back, successfully returning it from the brink of death. Both father and son reunite, and the dog swears to repay its debt to Morlock and the others someday. The following day, Raelza and Saitou climb to the top of the fortress built over the great labyrinth. They look over the landscape from their bird's-eye view and talk, with Saitou telling Raelza he needs her more than anyone else in the world, including his previous world combined. While Gabungle comes over to grab Saitou for help, Raelza remains behind with a rather visible blush and a significant smile on her face. Back in town, Raelza and Morlock are away. Saitou discovers a small metal container in Raelza's room. He uses it to construct a hot bath for Lafa. The two drink all night and fall asleep together. The following morning they wake up, and to their complete shock, they discover that Lafa somehow grew human-sized in her sleep. Sensing it's a temporary effect from using the mysterious metal vase, the two take advantage of the opportunity and go into town, where Lafa tries on a variety of outfits that she previously was unable to wear. As thanks for the protection during the Demon Lord fight and an apology for using the vase, Saitou buys her an outfit, which she shyly accepts. Subsequently, the two run into a belligerent adventurer in town who tries to make trouble for them but is easily handled by Saitou. That night, Lafa falls asleep while thinking about how amazing Saitou had become. She wakes up the next morning back to normal size, and the pair relay what happened to Raelza, who had finally returned. Lafa also cheekily asks Raelza to pay her for her protection during the demon fight, or she'll steal away her prince. Sometime later, as Saitou wanders around town worrying about finances, he spots an old lady with a torn shoe. He fixes it for her, and the thankful old gal asks if he is Handyman Saito. Surprised by this, he asks her how exactly she knew his name. She tells him that everyone around town has heard of this great artisan who can do almost anything. Hearing her speak his name out loud, people nearby gather, and in an instant, a crowd forms around Saitou asking for help with various small odd jobs. He returns later that night after having helped everyone out with their issues. This gives him the idea that once he's a bit more settled into this world, he could start a handyman business. The rest all encourage him to do so and wish him luck for his future. In the midst of dinner, they're interrupted one by one by a whole host of people they have come to know and befriend, all asking Saitou for help. As a crowd gathers in the inn and a lively atmosphere is formed, Saitou looks over at Raelza, smiles, and happily reflects on how he's more fulfilled now, more than he'd ever been before.